Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the second lecture of our autumn series, Surviving Cancer in Asia, Cross-Boundary Cancer Studies. Before we move on to today's discussion, I'd like to take a few minutes to reflect on our first lecture on October 14th, a session that truly set the tone for this semester. It did so by providing the broad perspective that will anchor our entire series. In fact, this series is intentionally structured as a journey from cultivate a wide vision to analyzing specific challenges to designing effective solutions. Lecture 1 was a crucial first step on that journey, giving us a panoramic view of health that crosses national boundaries. Two distinguished speakers from the WHO, Dr. Shinjiro Nozaki and Dr. Ravi Abeyasinghe, guided us to consider one essential question: how can health and the systems that sustain it transcend national borders? Dr. Nozaki reminded us that the idea of health for all did not begin with the Sustainable Development Goals. It has a long linkage from Japan's early achievement of universal health coverage and to the Alma-Ata Declaration well before the SDGs. He also illustrated how leadership, such as the Hashimoto Initiative, once changed the global health agenda, turning infectious diseases into a shared global responsibility. Leadership, he said, matters because it connects vision with action. Dr. Ravi then brought us into the present and future. From climate change and AMR to non-communicable diseases like cancer, he made it clear that national borders mean little. In the face of these forces, he asked us to image UHC not merely as a national policy, but as a regional and even planetary commitment, one that links human well-being to the well-being of Earth itself. His words, there is no universal health coverage without shared responsibility, captured the heart of our discussion. What resonated most was the call for shared ownership of health. In Malaysia, as Dr. Ravi observed, people often expect the government to take care of their health, but the future of UHC depends on a shift from a mindset of entitlement to one of co-responsibility, where individuals, community, and government work together. That transformation, he noted, begins with health literacy, with helping people understanding that to live well is also to act well. Finally, our discussion revealed that health systems are not only about treatment, but also about trust. UHC cannot be sustained by policy alone. It must be anchored in people's participation, in their willingness to talk together, to learn from each other, and to care beyond their own borders. As we move into today's lecture, let us carry forward this spirit and lessons of lecture 1 that our first lesson provided us with a wide-angle foundation of global perspective, shared responsibility, and trust, exactly what we need as we begin addressing more specific cancer-related challenges in the coming sessions. UHC is not just an acronym, it is a living bridge between well-being and equity, between science and humanity, and between nations, and choose to collaborate rather than compete. And that ultimately is what our course is about, learning to build those bridges. Finally, it's a time to introduce our guest speakers for today. We have planned to have three special guests, but unfortunately, Professor Jeff Dunn from Australia cannot join us. A storm at his home has knocked out his internet connection. However, his presentation is very important for us. So if his internet is restored, he will send us a recovered video of his talk. For the past 15 years, this cross-boundary cancer studies Tokyo University's course has been supported by UICC ARO, the Asian Regional Office of the UICC. Professor Tajima and Dr. Malcolm Moore are leading persons in cancer epidemiology in Asia. Their CVs are available on YouTube. They have published many research papers on cancer epidemiology in Asia, and since the early days when this field was very established, they have worked tirelessly to raise the level of cancer epidemiology in this region. The network of cancer research in Asia owes a great deal to their efforts. In particular, Professor Tajima is now focusing on cancer-related issues in Japan's rural area. Meanwhile, Dr. Moore is concentrating on strengthening cancer epidemiology in Central Asia, and his recent papers are also available on YouTube. And now, Dr. Tajima, let's start.
Thank you very much, Professor Kawahara. Kindly introduce myself. Please slide, please. Now I become old, not a young epidemiologist. So my talk is a little bit old story. Today, I would like to introduce very briefly Asia Pacific Organization for Cancer Prevention, APOCP, organized with Dr. Malcolm Moore more than 25 years ago for the Asia Regional Office under the UICC. This study is my Misugi clinic, located in the West Mountain area in Mie Prefecture. Very nice place with 4,000 population. Next, please. By request from Professor Kawahara, I introduce briefly my CV. I was born in Hiroshima, 20 kilometers far from Avon Park. Very fortunately, we were not exposed, my mother also. 1972, I graduated from the Osaka University Medical School, and I studied at first orthopedic surgery. Then come to the Shizuoka Prefecture, Seirei Bigadawa Hospital. I practiced general surgery. 1977, I studied clinical pathology at Aichi Cancer Center Hospital, mainly surgical pathology to diagnose cancer patients. 1979, I changed from the hospital to the research institute to study epidemiology and prevention. 1985, I went to the Johns Hopkins University to study the public health at the School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins University, 1985. Then 1987, I come back to Japan. I promoted section head of the Division of Epidemiology, and 1990 head Division of Epidemiology, Aichi Cancer Center Research Institute, and 2006, Director of Aichi Cancer Center Research Institute, now Director of the Misugi Clinic. Next, please. Main research work on cancer epidemiology and prevention. From 1977 to 2013, I committed mainly pathogeographical ethnoepidemiological study on adult tissue leukemia, we say ATL, and human tissue leukemia virus, HTLV1. Mainly Mongoloid people, including Japanese. 1979-84, comparative case control study on gastric cancer and large intestinal cancer. My thesis study, 1987 to 2013, hospital-based epidemiological research program at Aichi Cancer Center. This is my main research work in Aichi Cancer Center. We published more than 200 papers supported by Dr. Malcolm Moore. And 2019 studied the KOJAK study, Korean, China, Japan KOJAK study, to cooperate with three countries to clarify the common and the different risk factors for each countries. Next, please. And the main international work for global cancer control. I was Secretary General of the Asian Pacific Federation of Cancer Control, APFOC, we say, 2019 to 2005. And then 2000 to 2016, head of the Asian Pacific Organization for Cancer Prevention, APOCP. Probably Dr. Malcolm Moore introduced more. And then head of the Asian Cancer Prevention Program and board director for the Union of the International Cancer Control, UICC. I committed 10 years, the UICC in Geneva. Next, please. I integrate the epidemiological studies to clarify the risk factors for lifestyle disease, especially cancer. Our main study strategy is cohort study and case control study, and also left side molecular epidemiology and ethnicity-based epidemiology. These studies are focused on the next please. Center of the prevention. Prevention is most important. On the base, the descriptive study we need. Okay, next slide, please. My contribution to the main cohort study. Cohort study is a very important research work for epidemiologists. 1980 to 2009, Japan collaborative study, we say JAC study, for almost 20 years, 30 years. And 1990 to 2005, 3 prefecture cohort study on air pollution and cancer in Aichi Prefecture, more than 10,000 people included. And 2009, Japan multi-institutional collaborative cohort study we started. Still now, this study is ongoing during 25 years, and many fruitful products we have. Next, please. Very fortunately, I was nominated to the head of the study group of education, science, sports, culture, and technology, special priority area for cancer epidemiology, this ministry, the Ministry of Education, Science, Sports, Culture, and Technology. Very special priority area for cancer epidemiology. That's a very lucky. We have a lot of foundation funded we have. We clarified this study field in 4, A1, A2, A3, A4. International study, mainly ethnoepidemiology feature of cancer, analytical epidemiology, molecular epidemiology, and clinical epidemiology. And most importantly, the promotion committee of nationwide cohort study. That's a JMIC study we started. That we need a lot of money that funded this Ministry of Education. Next slide, please. This is my main research work in field A3, ethnoepidemiology cancer. We focus on the Korea, China, Japan, Kojak cooperative study. Main purpose is researching lifestyle characteristics, clarifying risk and protective factors, gene environment, gene polymorphism, and its risk impact, the gene environment interaction, establishing prevention strategy. And methodology, main methodology is cases versus reference comparative analysis. In 3 countries, more than 3,000 cases and 7,000 reference. And mainly colorectal and breast cancer, we focus. And the standardized method and analysis. And serum plasma DNA correction also, and the lifestyle questionnaire study, and the gene polymorphism we check, and comparison among 3 countries. This country, next please. This country, that's a very, in 2000, that's a variation of the incidence of colon cancer and breast cancer is very interesting. China, Korea, Japan, men and women, and breast cancer. That's at that time, Japan is highest incidence, but now also same. So this during the last 25 years, this incidence rate is much changed in 3 countries. Next, please. And finally, we recommend lifestyle disease prevention. 10 items: non-smoking, alcohol control, reduction of salt, sufficient intake of green yellow vegetable, fruit and seeds, adequate sleeping, coping skill against stress, and the most important, recreation, smiling, and gentle exercise, moderation of fat intake, well-balanced diet habit, sufficient intake of cereal, beans, and N3, omega-3 buffer. This pyramidal structure of recommended dietary and beverage habit is we recommended. So historical situation of the APOCP in relation to the APFOC. The APOC we founded in 2000. It's and also education and prevention, medical English education. Also, that's a textbook is published by Dr. Marco Moore. Also contribute this APOCP activities, and we collaborate with APFOC and also UICC. ARO, Asian Cancer Control, or Asia Cancer Control. This situation is very important, and we discussed at the fourth APOCP regional meeting attended by Frank Cavadi, that's the president of the UICC. We started the Asian regional office under the UICC. Still now ongoing by a group of the Professor Kawahara under the UICC. This is a first conference held in Nagoya, organizing committee Tejima, Mark Moore, Ariyoshi, Kobayashi, Imok An from Korea, Max Parkin, Rance, Hiroyuki Tsuda from National Cancer Center in Tokyo. This group organized this first meeting. The president at that time, our supervisor Kunio Aoki, he is now 97 years old, but still okay. So that we published the first APJCP journal of the APOCP, APJCP, we said. This is Aichi Cancer Center 2002. That's old, very recently, this Aichi Cancer Center will be reconstructed. Next, please. This is a ninth APOCP meeting held in Jeju Island, Korea. I used this founding meeting picture. Dr. Malcolm here. I also do, it's held in Royal Cliff Beach Resort in Thailand, 2000, November 2000. This is a starting point of the APOCP. Next, please. And I committed a long time to the USCC, but now USCC strategy much by changed. But at the time, this is my idea that USCC trade activity is very important. And the responsibilities of the UICC ARO is under this figure. That's most important thing is information transfer of knowledge, the journal, handbook, training course, and the regional conference. There also research coordination for evidence. But I'm sorry, recently this research coordination is not so promoted by UICC. Hospital regional cancer strategy, registries, epidemiological research, hospital-based case control study, cohort-based. But my idea that there's also promoted by UICC, international disease collaboration, and the intervention efforts for prevention, practical prevention program centers for rural vs urban areas, and clinical trials, screening, chemo prevention, and treatment. So this is a research-oriented work, very important for me, the UICC. Next, please. And this is a platform for three-dimensional strategic direction, practical prevention program against the cancer. I emphasize regional strategy here, global strategy, the regional strategy, Asian Pacific, and each area specific strategy for cancer control is very important. Of course, a site-specific, organ site-specific strategy is very important. I emphasize here. Next, please. Then, next, please. I'm now working in the local area. That's from a local to global idea is very important for me. So researchers and the health workers, production of health evidence by risk statistics, efficient usage of health-related evidence and its prevention. That's all researchers. And local government will support this health research activity of funding and efficient advocacy of non-public health information. And this is finally, I want to say this local people, the role of the local people, very working with researchers and local government and the investment of individual data. The individual data is very important. This is an investment for epidemiological studies, and implementation of cancer control also very important. So this is my focal idea for cancer epidemiology and prevention. Thank you so much.
Dr. Tajima, very wonderful lecture. Your activity is important. And one question, what do you think the important element of the establishing other country, especially Asia? What is the most important thing?
Very good question. Yeah, most important point that so we collaborate with the researchers and the people in each countries in Asia. Each country, each area, very specific lifestyle and also very different diseases. So we need to know comprehensively these pattern collaboration of these countries' people. So that the UICC and also APOCP and other these organizations probably play a role to make collaboration of each country's researchers, peoples, and countries. Yeah.
Especially impressed by your understanding ability to other people. Your personal connection is strong with Asian countries network.
But Professor Kawahara, I have already visited more than 50 countries. Each countries and each area, the idea of the people and the idea, the lifestyle, life pattern, and also risk factor is quite different. So that's not easy to collaborate to each country, but that's very important to share our knowledge to control the diseases, including cancer.
I see. And Dr. Malcolm Moore.
Hello.
Hello. What is your comment to add Dr. Tajima?
I think that Dr. Tajima is speaking for a world where relative affluence is dictating a high level of coverage, a high level of equality. In many of the other countries that I will probably be focusing on, then there is unfortunately not the same financial support available, and therefore what is feasible under the Japanese system, especially in terms of our epidemiology, clinical epidemiology, etc., that I know Kazuo is very obviously involved in, is not quite so feasible unless you have much more political support. And in Japan, political support is already there.
I recommend a little more. So we need, we study not only medicine, but also art, because so that music and also very big picture, also very important. We need very broad information and knowledge to study the epidemiology.
This lecture series is cross-boundary cancer studies. It means cancer is not only the medicine, but it's a very anthological event. That is, we very, very important thing is personality, human beings connection. And the students, are there any question?
Question from student in the chat box. Oh, thank you very much for the lecture, Sensei. I love your local to global idea. And my question is, why were Japan's colon and breast cancer prevalence high compared to China and Korea back in time? And what were the findings from the research for Japan? As Sensei previously showed in the slides, there's a more higher, the bar is higher in the Japan.
Yes, I think a variation of the cancer incidence, the difference of the cancer incidence rate in each countries, probably background lifestyle is very important, especially in terms of the colorectal cancer. Dietary habit is very important. That's fat intake is risky for colorectal cancer, but green yellow vegetable and also cereal, grain and wheat, that's a protective factor. So these combination make a difference of the incidence rate of each countries, especially in 3 countries in Kojak. So that, but recently, very interesting, these variation of the lifestyle is much changed in each countries. That the common lifestyle we have in 3 countries. So the incidence rate of each breast cancer and colorectal cancer, the difference is very small. That's very interesting. So lifestyle is, and very interesting knowledge we have that Japanese immigrated to the Hawaii and Los Angeles in the United States. That prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colorectal cancer is increasing in the immigrants in the United States because their dietary habit, lifestyle is much changed. So becoming the risk for American native. Please remember that lifestyle is a very important factor for risk of each side of cancer. Not all, but some.
Thank you. Any other question from student?
And also, I learned a lot from the anthropologist to study the cancer epidemiology. The anthropological background also a very important idea for epidemiologists. During the last 20 years, I work with anthropologists, many anthropologists. We learned a lot.
Dr. Moore,
Hello.
please, your lecture, okay?
Okay, first of all, I would start off with thanking Dr. Kazuo Tajima. He's a colleague, a friend for many years. I'm looking forward to our next encounter in Nagoya, where we might partake of sake and even beer and lots of delicacies, hopefully with Shinkan Tokudome. But in any rate, I greatly appreciate his introduction to the topic today. If I had not had the opportunity of being the so-called head of the UICC Asia Regional Office, financed entirely by Japan, I would not have had the experience necessary to put to bear this cancer research capacity and blah, 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 blah. I tried my best. I hope you will forgive me for that.
Okay.
I included 2 colleagues from Central Asia, Dr. Eliana Ten, from the National Basic Public Health, but she's responsible for the cancer registry. So I think that she is going to be a key person in the future in Kyrgyzstan, as I hope will become evident when I continue with the talk. And Dr. My very good friend, brother, cousin, whatever, Nurmek Igisin, son of a very close friend, who I met when I first started our organization. And anyway, these people are the sort of individuals who will be acting as the leaders within the low and middle income countries in the future if they get the appropriate support. And of course, we need to provide whatever input is available. Next slide, please. So I was asked actually by Simon Sutcliffe of the International Cancer Control Council, very prestige conferences that were held on a bi-yearly basis for a few years. They were very good because they focused a great deal on discussion of particular points. But anyway, we're looking about how we can ease the situation for MSc and PhD students. Look, I did a PhD in the 70s in England. I had a grant. I had a supervisor who was there every day. I can talk to him as much as I want. He had a good friend who could publish the papers very quickly. It was a very pleasant experience. My colleagues that I've come across in Central Asia don't get paid for it. They have to pay. And basically, it's a very much more difficult situation for people who really want to contribute to their countries in ways that are very important. So anyway, I thought that I would, in response to Simon Sutcliffe, I wrote a little review, I suppose. And basically, we're talking about if MSc and PhD students are going to be successful, if they're going to thrive, then the academic authorities, granting bodies, and employment work publication were all going to play a role. I think the academic authorities have the biggest responsibility because they have actually a lot of influence of all of the other three. But nevertheless, so we have these, the idea that we need to have a physical environment, a research environment, appropriate supervisors, appropriate funding, in order for PhD students, MSc students to do very good research and enter the body of scientists serving the community to do whatever work is necessary for NCD, and I say non-communicable disease control. So we have obviously within the academic world, as elsewhere, there's a lot of prestige involved, and therefore we have to publish. The accessibility index of a particular journal, I mean, we all want to publish in Nature, but you give it a try and you will find out how difficult it is. Anyway, you obviously try to publish in journals which are accessible and within reasonable costs, and are hopefully at least within PubMed, if optimally within Science Citation Indexing, so that there are the so-called impact factor can be taken. But all of these are important, of course, in the employment world, how you can use your research in order to... Next slide, please. So, components of the academic world, the physical environment, okay, we have our libraries, office space. I hope if we have office space that we can spread out, although we don't need to spread out books now. We need to have big monitors from computers. That's what I will come back to later. Of course, the laboratories and seminar rooms, online, very rapid online access is, of course, going to be these are all very, very important components of our physical environment. Much more difficult to describe as a research environment. When I first went to Japan, I joined a group where 5 days a week, 8 till 9, we had either it was a report of a paper, or it was a report of a case, a pathology case. So 5 days a week from 8 till 9, we were involved in this discussion. And basically everybody who was competent could take part. And this was an incredibly good research environment, a journal club, a discussion group, an opportunity to give case reports. All of these, of course, give a very, very positive stimulus to the influence of academic authorities on our MSc and PhD students. The ability to attend conferences and to perform cooperative research without the extra E. Sorry, that's my mistake. So granting bodies, of course, are there should be a very, very close relationship between academic authorities and granting bodies in order to be able to be aware of all of there is a lot of money out there available. It's just a question of being aware where it is and what it's for, and outreach, how you can possibly create an environment where you will produce a desire on the part of other parties like pharma, etc., to conduct some research and will provide the funding. So that will drive your academic work because you want these. So libraries, office space, that was the online access, very, very important. The physical, the journal clubs, etc., cooperative research. The big problem that I see in many, many countries of the developing world is that the supervisors are relatively established figures who have been trained very, very thoroughly in infectious disease. And unfortunately, the shift to non-infectious disease means that now, whatever I will show you later, the greatest burden is in the NCDs, and therefore these are the things we maybe need to focus on if we're going to bring the burden to our societies within control. Okay, so the supervisors, how do we include supervisors? We have public health modules to maybe shift people from different areas, course training, which is what I've been involved in, accelerated MSc and PhD, which is what I want to be involved in the future, education opportunities, going abroad, finding out how things go elsewhere, and of course, the availability of foreign co-supervisors who have a great deal of experience, who cannot act as the principal, but can act as co-supervisors, and maybe have the benefit of free, well, I mean, science-based trip to Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan. I tell you, there are many places that are worth visiting. So, next slide, please. So, research training. This is something that one way or another we've been involved in. I, together with a Japanese colleague, put together a book, a practical guide use of scientific English, skeleton approach. Well, have a look at it. It's available on my website. And I hope it will be useful for you. So we need to research training to target students, research groups, etc., follow up. That would be the optimal situation when you would be able to ensure that success was the result of your efforts. Unfortunately, this has not happened in the past. It's something we should focus on in the future. What I have been involved in is, of course, financed by JICA in Japan, which is, I've changed it a little bit for the purpose of this, but the idea is that you give a basic understanding of cancer epidemiology to anybody who comes along. So they could be specialists in infectious disease, but they could also take on students as PhD students, for example, in this other, very much more, as I will emphasize later, area of the world. I just want to quickly advertise for wherever I buy my monitors, that the more monitors, the more computers and monitors you have on your desk, that the easier it is to work. And of course, having a windows to a garden outside also helps, but not absolutely necessary. Okay. So basically, we want these epidemiology courses to focus on academics and ministry staff. So the ministries also realize the importance of various areas within cancer control. Next slide, please. So I looked at the WHO data on early mortality, that's before 75, and what is responsible. And as you can see, in all of these countries of Central Asia, which is where I'm presently occupied, 50% or more are orange, or nearly 50%. And this is the cerebral, the cardio. Okay, so this is the biggest problem. Red cancer is the second biggest problem. But as you can see, with all of these countries, the NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, are from the lowest. Let's have a look. Well, we got maybe 86, then 83. So you basically have even the lowest 83% of the premature mortalities, which are causing your society the most burden, are within these two. And if you look at, so obviously we have to focus on cardiovascular. But if you look at the incidence of cancer, and this, my slides here, because I work together with people in Central Asia, and their common language is Russian rather than speaking Kazakh and Uzbeki, etc. together. They have the common language of Russian as well as English. Then I try to maintain, let's say, equality between the languages. So I have English and Russian in most of my slides. But as you can see, it's very, very easily. Lung cancer, colorectal cancer, this is stomach cancer, breast cancer, this is cervical cancer. You can see through all of these countries, basically the same cancers are being responsible for the burden in incidence and also the burden in mortality. So we have 5 cancers that we could focus on in order to provide education, to provide employment for people who can achieve in their field, have very, very strong goals. They can look in education, how we can provide more education to the populace, so how we can improve screening, early detection, how we can undertake epidemiologic assessment, treatment, rehabilitation. All of this takes staff, specialist staff that we need to train up to be involved in the cancer control. This is what NGOs should be trying to promote, I think. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And in order to assist with the publication world, we, together with Tazuo again and a few other individuals, we launched this journal, official journal in 1999, 2000, and it has blossomed. I made I'm a little bit self-serving, I suppose, but I did a review of papers that I was looking at for reviews into breast cancer, registration overall, cervical cancer, colorectal cancer, and I looked at whatever was available in PubMed, and of course, lo and behold, the APJCP dwarfs any of the others because of the fact that it is focused on this area of the world. This is what we did from the beginning, Kazu. Anyway, but the problem is, I think, partly because of these other journals are not allowing I'm not going to say that particular journals, this is the case, but I think that there should be a set of criteria for article quality, which we should forever, for all throughout that we look at pertinence of overall theme, specific theme, competent rationale, methodology, etc. This also appropriate references, I think it's very, very important, comprehensive, up-to-date, language competence. But as long as this is the case, then hopefully journals throughout the world will assess the quality without necessarily looking at the nationality or the wherever it came from. Publication world, we try to help with the publication by arranging all of these meetings. This is 4 meetings at the very beginning that we had: Hawaii, cancer registration, Asia talks, the second regional cancer customs. That we have been able to provide an environment for people to work together to look for potential research together. Next slide, please. So, what research are we going to do? What's the what are our biggest problems? Well, I'm saying that they're non-communicable diseases. So the route from health through to possibly health is reversible. So therefore, with non-communicable diseases, there is the advantage of many avenues of research that we can explore in order to provide information to bring on this rather than this. So cross-sectional knowledge, I am particularly keen on this idea because if you involve university students in cross-sectional knowledge about all aspects of cancer control, or if you like, NCD control, then that will mean that they have experience as as guinea pigs, so to speak. They will also have the desire. You obviously provide information about what was the outcome, so that they may be stimulated to want to be involved in this type of research in the future. Cross-sectional study, knowledge, risk factor, exposure, social behavior, it's all very, very typical, and these are the types of targets that we can look at. Case control studies, risk factor, tumor characteristics. Again, this is very, 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 very standard, but I want to focus on the idea of multi-institutional cohorts, something that I got from Dr. Stajima from Tasman. Okay, so basically we have nested care host studies, we have screening, early detection, diagnosis that need to be assessed, treatment, etc. All of these blue are positive, and the red, unfortunately, on the opposite direction. But there are many areas that we can explore. We can explore in questionnaire items many of these factors here. You can look at it yourself if you're interested. And cohort items, these clinical case cohort studies, which I'll come back to later. These are very, very essential for the clinical epidemiology. So, and these are the sort of items that you might be willing to to take into account. Next slide, please. So we have lots and lots of body sites, which are unfortunately accessible or susceptible, to many NCDs. And these are just a few of them. So this is again a slide that I prepared for a mixed Russian English audience. But basically the idea is that we have a myriad, many different areas of specialty that we can focus on that will be of major benefit to societies. Next slide, please. And I want to focus particular attention on clinical intervention. Now, this slide was made for prostate cancer. We need to take into account all of these risks, the influence of screening, how many biopsies, what treatment was undertaken, and what the outcome was. Survival, not just survival, might also be other life quality of life indices, as is written down here. There are many factors which could impact on outcome. And the only way that you can really provide a comprehensive answer to which factors are providing most generating most influence, then you need to have a large number of cases where these questions could be answered. So you need a large number of questions, a large number of cases, so in that case, we need to focus on international hospital-based comprehensive case studies. My own dream, what I work at all of the time. Next slide, please. So I have had a lot of experience of setting up, of people setting up registries. Setting up cancer population-based registries is not easy. It takes, first of all, a motivated individual. And for any of us who have been around for a while, you can name the names who are the motivated individuals in many of the cancer registry startups. And they were motivated, and they were also, very importantly, they were influential. Like, for example, in Thailand, we had the Satvatna Sapt, who was motivated. He had a very good influence on IR, in the case of Max Bargan. He also had a good relationship with Aichi Cancer Center, like yourself, Kazuo, and therefore he had access to research funding. He was able to start. And normally you start off with a population-based cancer registry. You start off small, pathology department, and then the pathology department says, hey man, we need all of the hospital to work together. And then eventually you have in Nagoya or Aichi, where we have a cancer registry, you have all of the facilities, all of the hospitals, all of the path labs, everybody was involved in cancer that becomes involved in. And therefore you have a successful population-based cancer registry, which you have in Aichi. So you have GlobalCan CIV. You are on global. You obviously provide data to GlobalCan. You're on CIV, and you produce many epidemiological research publications. That's what we want to emulate. That's what we want to copy in our organ site-based clinical assessment approach. Motivated, influential, then they're going to be clinicians who have a lot of influence on pharma, perhaps, but also on other type of research funding, because we're interested in trying to bring down the burden of cancers, which are for the clinical epidemiology side. So your first, presumably, step will be to find the motivated within the product clinic who can start to gather cases. A very good example is Cheng Hai Yip, surgery in Malaysia, Malaysia University there. And she started off a breast cancer site-based clinical assessment using her own. So she has, I don't know, 500 cases. I'm thinking, of course, bigger, but anyway, this is appropriate clinic. And then you can move perhaps to an entire cancer center or an entire hospital in order to be able to get everybody involved in. I am primarily advocating work into the 5 biggest cancers, which are, as we know, lung cancer, gastric cancer, stomach cancer, colorectal cancer, breast, and cervix. However, we should probably in the very near future be adding prostate. It's coming up very, very rapidly. So, but in any rate, the idea is in order to have for each of these to have the motivation potential to try and find the funding and therefore to provide the information to whomever internationally is active and to provide clinical epidemiology results in publication form. Next slide, please. So where's this epidemiology research normally going to happen? Well, because you need to have computers and you need to have a certain amount of statistical knowledge, then our local registration centers, our population base, they are optimally localized in order to take on this role. They can be easily accessed for training and for funding from various WHO, etc., NGO sponsors. They have the possibility of interacting with the media since they're local people with a local populace who can influence politicians in the gunfluence to provide more financial support for NCD control. This is what we're basically after. We have our center also. I have one center in mind that has produced hundreds of papers that research journals, and this information also influences government. So this is where I think many new projects can be started in this type of center. Next slide, please. And this is the organization. If we have a real APOCP sometime in the future, or we have a Eurasian education intermal in the future, this would be the sort of things that we'll be trying to do, interacting with all of the international players, providing very practical information for MSc students in terms of funding, in terms of publications, program design, etc. As you can see from this, this is comprehensive. The idea is that the organization will reach out to as many potential contributors as possible. Next slide, please. And I'm going back. This is a slide I got from Kazuo many years ago. This was the start of the APOCP ABFOC. Unfortunately, it's died because APCC, Asia Pacific Council Congress, died. I think it's a great pity. I think it should be brought back. Something to be discussed, perhaps, in any rate. Because this idea of we have our APOCP is primarily interested in prophylaxis, is interested in prevention epidemiology. However, it does now, with its journal, publish a lot of clinical work as well. And the AP-ABFOC, the Asian Pacific Federation that Kazuo was the Secretary General of for so many years, was responsible more for a clinical treatment and clinical epidemiology approach. And this, I thought, was a very good balance between the two. 1 year APOCP, the next year AP-ABFOC. And of course, it was supported by UICC, and particularly UICC for Japan. And that's how UICC ARO came about with Kazuo and Dr. Kitagawa. And at the time, the UICC president who came to a meeting in Thailand. So we started the UICC ARO, which was, the idea was, as you can see here. So this is a very stimulating dream, the idea. And that is why I've been traveling. Next slide, please. I've basically tried over the last many years, how many countries we missed out one slide. We have, I think, about 15. We've had 14 or 13 general assemblies, all in different countries, no, twice in Korea. But we have had many regional conferences all over. I have been to Turkey, 5 different places. I've been to Egypt, 3 different places. I've been to, God, I can go through the whole of Asia. I've unfortunately not had the pleasant experience of Saudi Arabia or some of the other parts of, but I have been to Yemen and I've been to Egypt. So I basically have a rounded experience. So I'm looking for future leaders. I want to, the Eurasian Education Intermal organization is something that I'm trying to set up. and I'm hoping that people will join. At the website down here, as you can see, and then you have an intermail address if you want any information that will be coming out in the future. So I thank you for your attention. I don't know how long I've been. I've probably overdone it. No, it's still 6:05. So there's plenty of time for questions and discussion. Kazuo Sensei, daijoubu?
I'm sorry, I have to leave here now. Thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation. I appreciate for your help to revise our poor English for a long time to
Yeah.
publish the papers. And my surprise with your ability is you reviewed many papers rapidly and analyze the all results, then arrange the necessary results. So that's we cannot take over your ability, but how to read so fast the English paper to young generation you recommend to read rapidly the papers.
I didn't really understand that, Kazuo, but we have problems in Central Asia where I'm primarily occupied now, because the clinicians are not convinced of the advantages of being involved in epidemiology, including clinical epidemiology. So that's what I'm trying to change. That's what was one of the main focuses of my lecture, and the lecture I gave in Russian, in poor Russian, of course, but in a recent meeting in Kokshetau, because I think that that's the way to go. The things that we take for granted in Japan, all of the things that I know that are going on with Jack and all of the other, that you have plenty support. You still have plentiful support from the National Cancer Progress Center and things like that. So look, you're going to have, but I'm talking about a world which is totally different. But what I'm trying to do is try to bring together that world with the Korean world, which is very similar to in Japan, as you know, very similar. In fact, even more advanced, I suppose, in some ways, in terms of how we can do collaborative research together with these people in Central Asia, so that we can also help them to develop their human potential, etc.
There's a question from student in the chat box, and thank you, Professor, for the lecture. I was intrigued when I read about your new initiative, Eurasian Education Internal. It sounds like an inspiring idea, especially how it combines science with art, culture, and language. I was wondering, what inspired you to expand APOCP's work into this more interdisciplinary space, and how do you envision it helping people connect beyond this scientific community?
COVID lockdown. I was here in Thailand. I couldn't do any work. I couldn't go to Japan or anywhere. So I started doing art, and I've been through 500 artists now. Once I start on something, I get very strongly involved. So I'm now doing history. I've done maybe 10 languages. Basically, I'm just interested in providing something which is almost 100% for free, because I believe in neo-Renaissance man. I am a neo-Renaissance man, and I will make that obvious to people what that means in the future. But it's about humanity. It's belonging to humanity and wishing to provide one's expertise, provide one's contribution, because it's your responsibility. This is something that when this is all, I think this is something very easy in the academic world because we get paid for doing research. It's a very, very nice job. Come on, it's a doddle. So we get paid for that. So we have to provide the results, and hopefully that's a payback for society. But I have now in the future, in the last few years, I've decided to try to be much more involved in practical measures, how things are going on in terms of the practical CDs, the communicable disease controls, because this is what we need to do if we're going to bring down the burden. I just like, I've traveled, every time I go to a new country, I make a new dictionary. Hello, any more questions?
Oh, thank you for your answers. I also have a questions for your lectures that you mentioned the cancer registry in your slides. I think it might be really difficult or may have missed some challenges in when we treat this in the low and middle income countries. What is the main challenges when do the cancer registry?
Lower income countries.
Oh yes.
The situation in China, as I'm sure you're well aware,
Mm.
has expanded the Chinese registries, which are acceptable in terms of quality for cancer incidence 5 continents in IARC, International Agency on Cancer. There's something like 350, I don't know, maybe more than that. But anyway, this has happened over a 10-year period. The Chinese government has decided to put money into registries, and the capacity is there in order to be able to effectively gather all of the data, and therefore you have all of it. But you have countries like the ones I've been involved in, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, not so bad, but it's not improving, it's going down, it's going back. Malaysia, they've lost two registries. The Vietnamese have lost 2 registries from CI5. Come on, the situation in other parts of the world. And if you go to Central Asia, where I'm working now, you have no registry which is accepted as high quality enough for CI5. So, I mean, come on, we have very, very big differentials across the world. And the question is, why do we need these data? What are we going to use these data for? And I think it's for cancer control purposes. And they're very, very necessary. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers.
No, thank you very much for a wonderful lecture. You have dedicated many years to advancing cancer research across the Asia and developing country. It's a very splendid work. At this point, what do you consider to be the most important thing that need to change? And what do you think it will take to make that change happen in this cancer research in Asia?
It's a question of priority. So therefore, if an unfortunate first lady gets breast cancer, then we have a big support for breast cancer programs as we have in Malaysia. This is not something that we want to, but the idea is that we need to think in terms of our societies. I mean, most of the people that we're listening today, I believe, are from the Far East, from China, from Korea. Maybe 1 or 2. I mean, obviously yourself from Japan, 1 or 2 from Japan. But your situation there in the Far East is very, very different from the situation I'm basically meeting and envisaging every day. I have a lot of experience in Kazakhstan, 5 different Kokshetau, October, blah, blah, blah. I've given training courses, etc. So, but the situation there is very, very different. The financial support is not as available. But the question is, what are you doing in our successful countries? Are you bringing down the mortality rate? And certainly that's the case for Korea. So Korea is a world leader in bringing down. This needs to be advertised, needs to be that we need to have people coming from Central Asia, from elsewhere, into Korea or into Japan, and finding out the practical situation, how this improvement has been achieved, and if it can be emulated, can be copied in their own countries. That's what I think we need to be focusing. That's what one of the NGO activities. So I'm basically NGO also has to interact with the International Agency for Cancer, etc., and the World Health, but and UICC. Unfortunately, we had Kazuo, we didn't have Jeff Dunn, but I mean, we all need to work together in terms to try to bring down the burden of cancer in the first instance and NCDs, because many of the risk factors we know are common to most of the NCDs, including Alzheimer's, for example. That's what's worrying me now.
Today, we learned how cancer research and control have mainly developed from the perspective of high-income countries and how important it is to include the voices and viewpoint of low and middle-income countries. I believe this is true not only for cancer field, but also for many other fields. We have learned a great deal today. And this slide is today's assignment. Even if student field is not directly cancer, please consider this issue your research field. And next week, November 4th, we will welcome Dr. Soundari Samasundaram, President of the National Cancer Society Malaysia, for a special lecture titled NCDs and Life in Asia. What must we do now with Yakult as our guest experts? Please look forward to do. Dr. Malcolm, thank you very much. Thank you.
I just want my last slide, please. Can we show my last slide again? Anybody who is interested in, I'm afraid that's not very, but this is, we're all about people power. It's all about future leaders. Anybody who is interested in what I am doing can look at my website and can contact me if you want. It provides an email address, and I will send any information, or somebody will send information about anything that's going on in the research side of my organization. Since, as I say, as you know, I'm involved in various activities. So anyway, I just wanted to say that you're welcome to. I want to try to reach out to people who are like-minded in terms of their research goals and their views on how the world should develop in the future. Thanks very much, Nori.
Thank you very much.